why we're here today, there isn't a recognized tool for vendor and contract management processes. What you are seeing are a lot of softwares in the procurement business, but they are looking at running tenders. They're looking at doing e-procurement like Ariba did when they started off. So there's a definite gap there, and that's what we're hoping to fill with the development of already the offer in helping customers to better organize their VMO process, and then to tool it up using the software, which is going to be like a support tool to the work done in developing the VMO processes. So as we move forward, so the software will be installed after perhaps quite a lot of preparatory work that will enable our team going in to look at how you are currently working in all the areas of you will be assessing risks across your company. Somebody is doing that. There will be more and more people looking at cybersecurity risks. Of course, you will have a contract database, as the chart previously showed. Unfortunately, that they may be distributed across the company in different places, in different filing cabinets. The difficulty, we will be looking here in priority at probably rather larger companies who may have business units and may not know in business unit A how the business is going with supplier X, when in business unit C it's not going so well. So the whole idea, I understand that centralization is a dirty word for a lot of people. Nevertheless, for key contracts where you have the same provider working in several areas, we will see that the best practices lead us to go down towards that road. So the key ingredients, of course, are going to be the supplier data. You have a supplier database, and you have a contract database also. You will almost certainly have renewal dates on there, but do you have the classification matrix as Dominic presented it to you? For the supplier base, it's the same thing. Do we have the classification matrix so you know really who are your key suppliers? I do a lot of work in procurement, and if you ask the question, actually, I never cease to be amazed how many companies, they don't really know who their key suppliers are. They've never gone through the exercise to understand how they are. So the whole, the parties of the relationships of the contracts and the way we renew them and the tools we use to do that will, for some of them, be done. So running the RFX, of course, we're not interested in doing that. What we are interested in is knowing that the results of that are, and who are the new suppliers that we are starting to work with. So moving forward to the next slide, please. So this is how the cockpit will put all these things into action. So there will be the records of all your contracts and all your providers and any projects you have with them. You will have the activities that you are doing with them. What are the processes? Are they formalized? How are you managing to deliver performance with these guys? Do we have an annual performance plan? What is going on? What are the activities that are going on in there? Who are the stakeholders there? So again, we're often going to be coming from a situation that is rather more distributed than it could be ideally. We're not talking about taking the responsibility away from the people in the business unit. What we're talking about is putting in a software tool in place that will allow everybody to share the information that everybody previously was not able to share. So getting the stakeholders on board is going to be a question. There's change management here. Having a team that implements the tool is going to be very important, to have a good team of people, so that the uptake will be good. The calendar piece is talking about the reviews that we do, the alerts we need to have. There are a lot of contract management tools out there that will basically be warehouses where you can store all your contracts. That's great. They may even give you the renewal dates, or to say, well, I need to see if I want to renew this 3 or 6 months before the end date. Again, we want to get this information into one place so that everybody can see how it's working. And once we've got these 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, sets of information together, then we can talk about having dashboards that everybody can see. What is the temperature? How are we doing today in managing our performance, in managing our compliance? I think that there is one major aspect of all this which is new. We see hacking problems all over the place now. The whole question of cybersecurity, especially when outsourcing contracts are leading you to having vendors that are handling sensitive information. How protected are they? We need to have more audits in this area, and we need to know if these things are going on successfully. Moving on, please. The software then is there to tie all these pieces together to make sure that everybody has access to the consolidated platform with all the information inside. So how do we implement it? Straight away onto the next page. That's what I'm going to show you now. Recent surveys have showed that unfortunately very few companies have even established, without talking about world-class, vendor management office maturity. Even the concept, the acronym VMO is not many people would know what that is. We do start to see on LinkedIn now some people who do tag their job as VMOs. It's very interesting. It's actually interesting for us to find them and try and tell them what we're doing here. But yeah, most companies are going to be in an exploratory phase where there is no real proper supply relationship management in place. So that's what all the preparatory work, in many ways, a consulting type job that Dominique and Koen have been talking about, which we can do without necessarily implementing the tool. The sourcing cockpit, however, is not the cherry on the cake. It's a vital part of putting all this into music together so that we can globally understand what's going on. So we can move on, please, to the next chart. So as we've said, there's lots of data out there. We know it is going to be in various places. We need to find it. We need to integrate it. We need to lead the actors. And a bit more obscure in there is finding the processes and the practices which you do have, but are not very well defined, are not formalized, and are not represented by real useful indicators that can really show you what's going on. So once we've started with a proof of concept, or even if you have a higher level of maturity, then we can come and introduce the software directly. In any case, the finality of the software is to model the processes and the practices that you are doing and pick up the indicators so that you can have them all in a central place and everybody has access to them. So moving on, we're going to see the process chart of software implementation. So my job over recent years has been implementing this type of tool and also project management tool. So we can say that the needs analysis action has already been done by what Dominique and Koen have been describing. So of course we'll have a launch meeting, we'll have a kickoff. Is to be able to know how we're going to do this, who will be involved in the team, who will be forming a part of the team, which will be very important in terms of uptake, in terms of getting people to accept the use of a new tool that they didn't have before. So once we're happy with that, there'll be installation. Now the software is offered on a SaaS basis, so there's no real worry about that. You don't need to introduce particularly any software onto your systems. It's a full web application, and from then on we are in the configure phase, where we would like to involve the customer actors from day one. There will be a customer admin who will learn all about the tool and be able to perform all the imports of the management of the new suppliers, the processes, and so on. So the configure process is going to enable us to set up all the receptacles, if you like, look at the processes you have and the data management operations that we've identified previously.
And I'd like, if you set me, Tony, I would like to add something to this configure. And I think that's one of the core elements of Sourcing Cockpit, is that there is a lot of template-based elements in there, which allow each and every customer admin to build their own activity process templates and to build their task templates. If you want to build a risk assessment, you build it in Sourcing Cockpit. If you want to build your own RFI and RFP process task, you build it in Sourcing Cockpit. So you have a lot of building capabilities to configure. We do not have to do programming with the cockpit, because it is a very flexible, activity-based, template-driven environment that enables you to do multiple templates, even in multiple countries. It could even be that you have a multi-language template where you say, well, look, I have to interact for a certain part with providers in Chinese. Well, you build a Chinese template. So it gives you all the building and configuration possibilities to build all your tasks and all your activities that you have engaged in your process. And as I said, a fool with a tool is a fool. If you do not know, you cannot build. And of course, it comes out of the box with a lot of pre-configured templates how to do these things. But the power is indeed in that configuration possibility.
Thank you, Dominique. So now the sequences we're seeing here, we could say will apply in an initial case for a POC, and to a large extent would be repeated when you're going through a prototype, and then a rollout to a larger scale. So once the tool is set up, then we can start really to integrate all the existing data. We will be able to import a lot of the data you will be on Excel files. We know that. We know you have these Excel files. We are able to import them and then set up APIs that will be able to update the data going forward with a more live interactive update of all the data that may be on your systems. Now, I must insist again on the ideal customer team here being a small, skilled team representing key customer functions to make the initial tests and adjust the configuration as needed. In any case, adequate testing is required before contemplating larger scale rollout. The worst thing that can happen here is that users fail to find a benefit from using the Sourcing Cockpit. Remember, resistance to change in using new tools is always going to be there. Once we're happy everything is okay, then we can start to train the teams on how to use the software. There will be like an approval to say, well, okay, customer is happy. There'll be a gate, a milestone to say that the initial configuration is okay. And then training will take place. It's not that difficult. 2-hour session is sufficient for most contract managers in groups of 8. No more, 8, because it's good to have smaller teams. It's not because of COVID. It's just it makes for better training. During the initial phases, during a POC and even a prototype, we recommend a period of assistance on demand to make sure that that uptake is good. And then there we are. So in conclusion, for me, the outcomes of Sourcing Cockpit are the ones that enable a lead VMO way of working to set up and to work. One place for all the actors to share the information, like the dashboard that Dominique's put on the screen, that is currently not centralized, is rather to be found in a large quantity of separate Excel files and spreadsheets somewhere. One place for the dashboards that give meaningful views on the supplier portfolio, and one place to hold all the audit information that is becoming vital in some regulated sectors such as banking and pharmaceuticals.